let's start with sort of your early career. I was fascinated to learn you were at EY.
Yeah, that's right.
So you were a management consultant.
I was a management consultant in the health sector. I had spent 4 summers during college at the University of Southern California. And when I graduated, I walked into a job working mainly in hospitals, improving care. So whether they need a new radiology department or transcription going from, a dictation to typing out prescriptions and these kind of things that were transforming back in the early 2000s.
So you were at a front seat in healthcare. So is that what led you? Talk a little about Major Inc. What the company does and sort of what led you on down that path to starting the company.
Well, I was not planning to go back into business as it is ever really. As a singer, I pretty much enjoy my life going around singing and making songs. But during the pandemic, everything slowed down. There was no work, and I unfortunately succumbed to the COVID virus. I'd been vaccinated and boosted, and I thought to myself, well, the mRNA technology is great. It keeps me out of the hospital. It's saving a lot of lives. Mortality rates are down, but I want a prophylactic. I want something that blocks the virus altogether. And so when I was at school, I had done a little bit of science. I spent a summer in a wet neuroscience lab working on localizing motor memory. So I understood how to read papers, how to write a research paper, and I started reading everything that I could about the mechanism of the COVID disease, in particular SARS-CoV-2, and I understood that the spike protein binds to the ACE2 protein, which then allows for the virus to enter the cell to replicate. And I thought, why don't we just block that interaction? I'm sure there's somebody working on it. I started reading all of the literature, and I found a bunch of different papers, different mechanisms. People were trying to create ACE2 decoys so that it competes for the viral load that enters enters your system. There were people working on virucidals that were attacking the actual virus. But what I was looking for was just somebody to put some glue in the lock so that the ACE2 protein would not allow the spike protein to bind. And I found this brilliant scientist named Dr. Gomika Urugamasoria at the University of Houston. I read his paper, and I immediately emailed him and said, why is this not available for everybody to use? And then I began my education in how difficult this industry is. And I said, look, maybe I can just donate and sponsor some research to see, whether this is viable or not. The paper that I read was an in vitro paper, and I sponsored the in vivo research, and it was successful in the mammal model that we chose. And I thought, this is huge. So I started a company with him, licensed the IP from the university, and then tried to march it up the hill to gain some traction on it.
So talk a little about, the need for capital, right? So we talked about philanthropy may not be enough. What have you seen in the development in biotech and sort of access to capital and sort of how capital could be used to scale these types of businesses and where, people, here both as investors, as corporations could sort of help support these types of initiatives?
Right. Well, okay. So the numbers are different from different reporters, but, it costs about $6 billion to make one drug, right? So, and that is coming from a history of drug discovery and development that is wrought with failure. Like 99% of drug candidates fail. And it takes a lot of work to just get one particular drug lead that you're going to try to then take to the clinic. And it's very capital intensive. A lot of the basic research that happens to understand what is the mechanism and function of our biology is coming from taxpayer dollars. We pay our taxes, goes to the government has the NIH. The NIH then offers research grants to brilliant professors and scientists around all the universities in the country. They're doing the basic research is kind of like understanding the roadmaps of our biology. And then there's translational research where these scientists like the one that I'm working with are trying to build the machines that can drive on the road. And And these machines are medicines, they're drugs. In translational research, just getting to the drug leads is very expensive. And then from there, getting that drug lead to preclinical, before human research is also really expensive. And that's where I came in to work with Dr. Gomika, was to help translate from what he'd done at the bench into a mammal. And it's not a small amount of money, but it's not the bulk of the money that's necessary. And where you end up reaching what they call the valley of death is in between this preclinical area and getting to the clinic with the FDA. So the NIH and many other institutions within the government are offering this kind of early research dollars, but then there's kind of the onus is on the technology itself to be so attractive from a paper that's been published or from somebody who can, industry to come in, adopt it and say, this is what we want to license out of this university, and we want to invest and make this drug viable. But there's that gap. There's a gap in there, and that gap is about a $7 to $10 million gap. And many scientists don't have the desire to be enterprising, and it requires folks from the outside industry. There are some really smart investors that understand how to grab IP out of universities. But for the most part, a lot of it's coming out of the big Ivy League or big name colleges and universities that everybody knows, from the Harvards and the Stanfords.
So when we talk, a lot of today, obviously we've been, the theme is leading with intelligence. Obviously it's a nod to artificial intelligence. When you see AI and how AI may help address sort of, again, maybe the probability, so we could start to find better investments and a higher probability that they'll go to human trial, where do you see the role of AI in that journey of the development all the way through sort of bringing these treatments to market?
I see it right from the very beginning. I think it's going to be really beautiful to get some collaboration across the spectrum of scientists to share data. When they share data and create, the ability for LLMs to process all of this data that they kind of keep siloed because you want to be able to publish before you let the cat out the bag. But it's important because this basic research will allow us, AI, analyzing basic research, will allow other scientists to make better and more improved decisions earlier. It's really important, I think, as well when it comes to predictive modeling. There are companies like AlphaFold and others that are working on protein design and how many potential protein molecular structures there could be. Well, that's really important. And to be able to predictively model those things, to design them in silico is really important. One of the things that I'm cautious about, and I know there's a lot of people investing in AI for drug discovery, is that there's always going to be a bottleneck at the bench. It has to work in the physical world. And so you have to be able to take that in silico model, create it, synthesize it in the physical world, test it with an assay at the bench, and then test it in a mammal, and then eventually test it in humans. What I'm excited about is that potentially AI, if the FDA is willing to adopt, could take decades and decades of data and feed it to a model, and we can have so much more information about what is safe and what isn't. And I don't know that that's going to be possible.
Right.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, we said we wouldn't have a political conversation about the regulatory environment, but is government ready, regardless of is government ready to think about these topics and really understand the broader implications?
I don't know that the government is ready. I think that it have to come from an educated populace. I think that we're going to have to really understand that in order for us to improve healthcare, and improve the kinds of medicines that we're taking, we're going to have to use technology to our best advantage. Nobody at the FDA wants to be the person who made the decision that ended up causing losing lives. And especially if they were saying, well, deniable plausibility. The AI said it was going to be okay. That's not really going to work. So ultimately, we will have to find ways to reduce the risk of allowing AI to be a leader in the regulatory process. But I firmly believe that it's an important step for the way forward.
So later on, we'll have the conversation about AI and music and creativity. We'll expand on that, before you perform. But any closing thoughts? Obviously, we have a lot of people here across industry. What do you see the next couple of years as far as thinking about the impact that AI will have on broader society? Are you optimistic, pessimistic?
I'm optimistic. I really love technology and the advancements of technology. I think that it hopefully will give us an opportunity to, as was said earlier by Mr. Huang, maybe we could work less. And with that working less, we can spend more time with people that we love and that we want to experience this amazing, beautiful experience with called life.
All right. Well, Aloe, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation, and we'll all look forward to seeing you perform later on today.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.